Hi, good evening. We're going to work again this week on main idea and details. I hope this last week you were able to get more comfortable with using the various forms. We are actually going to use the main idea table like we did on Monday, whole group, and instead of the main idea and details thinking map from last week. So I'm going to read the story. Will manatees survive after removal from Florida's endangered species list? So we're going to read this together and fill out that main idea table at the end. Some manatees swim in warm waters off the coast of Florida. These playful, plant-eating animals are often called sea cows. They get their name from their large size. Florida manatees almost became extinct or died out completely in the 1970s. There were only about 1,000 manatees left. Today, there are more than 3,000. As a result, Florida recently took the manatee off its list of endangered species, animals or plants that are at risk of dying out. Even though laws to protect the creature were passed in the late 1970s, the manatee was still in danger. Those laws made it illegal to hunt manatees, but as the number of people in Florida grew, more manatees died. Many manatees were injured by or killed in boat crashes. Others became tangled in fishing gear. Not everyone thinks it is a good idea to remove manatees from the list. Many scientists worry that the animals will not receive the same protection they once did. We can't celebrate yet, manatee expert Patrick Rose told WR News. Officials in Florida say manatees will still be protected under the country's Endangered Species Act. That law protects threatened plants and animals. There will be no less protection, says wildlife expert Henry Cabbage. Okay, we're going to go back to this article and we're going to identify some details that help us to find out what the main idea is. Remember, on our table here, we've got 4 supporting details that will help to hold up our main idea. Remember how we bent those legs down and that held up our main idea. So let's start with some of these supporting details first. I'm going to look in kind of each paragraph for some details that will help me to identify the overall main idea. So something that I noticed at the beginning was that they talked about manatees becoming extinct. And I'm drawn to that because of the bold font in the article, an endangered species. So this whole thing is talking about how manatees almost became extinct. And there's a lot more details in here about the time period and the state, but overall the goal of that paragraph was to tell me that they almost became extinct and they were on the endangered species list. And then here it's talking about how there were laws to protect this creature, and that even though that they were illegal, there were still a lot of manatees that were dying and killed in boat crashes. So I'm going to highlight that manatees were still in danger even though this law was passed. So we just highlighted the manatee was still in danger because all these details here were saying that even though the laws made it illegal to hunt, there were still manatees dying, and not just from hunting, but from boat crashes as well. So even though the law was there to protect the manatee, it was still in danger by these things. The next paragraph says, not everyone thinks it's a good idea to remove manatees from the list. So I'm going to highlight that because that's where the disagreement lies. Not everyone agrees. And we don't have to write that word for word, but a big part of this article is that whether or not the manatees would survive if they were removed from Florida's endangered species list. So the last paragraph here says that officials in Florida say manatees will be protected under the country's Endangered Species Act, and that law protects threatened plants and animals across the country. However, they're saying that will not reduce the protection that the manatees have now, but people in Florida and scientists aren't in agreement right now about that. So they say they'll still be protected, under that Endangered Species Act. It just won't be the Florida's endangered species list that protects them. So as we brought up earlier, we're going to be filling out the main idea table, and our 4 legs support this overall main idea. So let's go and look at what we can conclude based on these different topics that we've highlighted in the article, Will Manatees Survive After Removal from Florida's Endangered Species List? So the overall main idea that I wrote down was that the discussion was whether manatees should stay on Florida's endangered species list. So all the details that I'm going to include here should support that this article was about whether manatees should stay on Florida's endangered species list. So the first supporting detail that I highlighted in the article was that even with laws, they were still in danger, and they being the manatees. That came directly from the article. So whether the manatees should stay on the Florida's endangered species list, a supporting detail was that even with the laws, they were still in danger. So while it helped them a little bit, it didn't take away the danger entirely. Another supporting detail of the article of whether they should stay on Florida's endangered species list was that they almost became extinct in 1970, and that's when they were added to the list. Now their population has grown again, but they were in danger at one point. So do the scientists have an argument in stating that they should stay on the list? Oh, that post-it came off for me. The third supporting detail is that not everyone agrees on the removal. So not everyone is agreeing that in the article, yes, it should be removed, or no, the manatee shouldn't. And that's a big supporting detail of that argument. The last one is that they're still protected under the country's Endangered Species Act, even if they were to be removed from Florida's endangered species list. And this did not give us a yes or no. This was just giving us information, details to support or not about whether manatees should stay on Florida's endangered species list. So if you did not get that information written on your idea map, go ahead and write it now, and you can pause it or go back and re-listen to the article and revisit as I was going through each of the details in the main idea to get it written down yourself. And you will do this on your own on an article for Wednesday. If you have any questions, make sure to write them down and bring them in and put them on the parking lot so we can discuss them as the whole class. Have a good night.